This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
What's up, Detroit sports fans? Welcome to the Fan Report, show made by fans, for fans, powered by the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. I'm Nick, and joining us today is our boy Anderson to give us this week's topics.
Well, the Lions season is thankfully over, but we do have the coaching search to look forward to, so we'll talk about that. And the Pistons have played 4 games this past week, so we'll give a quick overview of what we liked and didn't like. It's the Fan Report.
Well, we saw the Lions try ever so hard to give up a top 10 draft pick today.
But honestly, thank God we had the refs this.
I was going to say, the refs knew what was best for the Lions even more so than they did. Stafford played a great game. There's no doubt about that. I don't think it really mattered because his stock was what it was going to be no matter what. Marvin Jones may have upped his stock a little bit, having as good of a game as he did. He may get a better deal in the offseason. Who knows?
Yeah, I was impressed how he played.
But Romeo Okwara hit double-digit sacks this season with his 10th of the year. So there's one lone bright spot on the defensive side of the ball. Jelani Tavai made a nice play.
Let me start with this. If you were Darrell Bevell right now, were you like? I know Matthew Stafford wanted to play, but like, was there really a reason to play the starters all 4 quarters? I mean, I know the Vikings were, and I know this was a competitive game, but like. So
am I Darrell Bevell or am I...
You're Darrell Bevell.
Okay, then yes, there is a benefit to playing Matthew Stafford and all the starters in this game because Darrell Bevell's is coaching for a job. Mm-hmm. He wants the head coaching job of the Lions. He wants a job in the NFL. He wants to be a coach of a football team wherever it may be. So yes, he is coaching for a job. That does benefit him to play all the starters and go for the win. He wants to either be kept on board as the OC, handed the head coaching job, or given a coaching job somewhere else, whether it be as a head coach or an offensive coordinator. So yes, it does behoove Darrell Bevell to continue to play the stars and try to win games.
Would you want Darrell Bevell on board as the OC still?
No, I want the head coach, the future head coach of this team, to be able to pick his own staff all across the board. I don't want any holdovers unless that person comes on and says, I want Darrell Bevell as my offensive coordinator. That's different. I would be very skeptical. Mm-hmm. I don't believe that because it's like when Matt Patricia came in and had to keep Jim Bob Cooter. Like, we knew that was a play that the Lions and Matthew Stafford had basically forced him into.
I haven't thought about that name in years.
Right. It was a situation where the head coach was forced to keep the coordinator. I don't like that. I want the head coach to have full autonomy when it comes to bringing in the coordinators that he wants. He has the right to interview whoever he wants and have them come in. Obviously, the GM and Chris Spielman, all of them have their say, but I want the head coach to be able to make the decision himself. He has the most weight. But regardless, Darrell Bevell obviously wants a job in this league. So yes, he had to play the starters at that point. The Lions brass may not have said the same thing. At least if they were smart, they wouldn't have. But again, it was a game that, I mean, the Vikings played their starters. What did they have to play for? Obviously, Justin Jefferson was playing for the rookie receiving record, which he got today in yardage. He passed both Randy Moss and Anquan Bolden today for the single-season rookie receiving yards. So props to him. He had a hell of a year. But outside of that, neither team really had anything to play for.
This was a fun game.
It was. And the Lions offensively looked arguably better than they have all year. They were able to move the ball at will. Granted, it was the Vikings defense, which is not very good. I mean, they looked better on the offense side of the ball. There's hope there. There's positives. Now, Andrew, let me ask you this. Does Matthew Stafford's performance today give you reason to want him to come back next year and be the quarterback of the Lions for long term?
I mean, I said in the beginning, I'm not against him coming back next year as long as we already have a plan in place for the future here. But does it make me want him any more or less? No, this doesn't really move the needle for me. This was a really bad Vikings defense. And it's not like I haven't seen this kind of performance out of Stafford before. We've seen this a couple times already this season. Stafford have a game like this. So it doesn't really move the needle for me. I am happy because maybe recency bias will help his draft stock. I mean, not draft stock, his trade stock. And maybe that could help us get a deal done and get some nice assets in return. So that makes me happy in that sense. But in terms of moving the needle of whether I want him here any more or any less, that doesn't really move the needle for me.
So while you're not really opposed to Matthew Stafford coming back next year, I kind of am. And the reason is because when this team is ready to win, he's going to be like 35 years old. This team is not going to be ready to win next year or the year following. And if they are the year following, then the future GM of this team came in and literally just waved the magic wand and created magic, because that's the only way it would happen. So I don't see a 35-year-old Matthew Stafford leading this team to championships. I would like to see him go off somewhere else and finish out the final years of his prime and the final years of his career somewhere where he can win in these next few seasons when he's going to be getting towards the end of his prime. And I also think it pushes our rebuild timeline back if you keep Matthew Stafford, because next year they won't be bad enough to put you inside the top 5. Or to be you're not going to be bad enough with Matthew Stafford at quarterback to get the high draft picks that you want and you need for a rebuild in the NFL.
That is true.
So I think it would push back the timeline of this team rebuilding and turning our problems and turning this franchise around and creating success.
And really, for me, my core motivation, like if we were to move him this offseason, would be, let's get asses for him while we can. Let's not make the same mistake that a team like the Pistons have made and holding on to Blake Griffin a little too long or holding on to Aaron Drummond a little bit too long when we could have pulled the trigger on a trade when they were both performing well. Drummond's kind of killing it with the Cavs right now.
Matthew Stafford didn't really have a very good season.
He's not, but I'm saying he ended the season on a high note. And that's why I was saying I'm hoping that moved the needle in terms of recency bias for trade value. That's what I'm saying.
So the reason I also am a proponent of trading Matthew Stafford is just because, one, you can add draft capital to a rebuilding team. Right now, the Lions in this draft don't have a ton of draft capital. They only have 6 picks in 7 rounds. It might even be 5 picks in 7 rounds. So there's not a lot of capital there. You trade Matthew Stafford, you bring in some draft capital there, even if it is for next season. It doesn't help you right away, but it does for next year. It's something to entice a GM to want to come here. And then on top of that, it puts you in a position to begin a rebuild. Your offense is almost ready to go, if you ask me. Say the Lions are in a spot, because right now, if things stay where they are right now and the Eagles end up losing tonight, the Lions will be picking 7th in this draft. That's probably a spot with, after Justin Fields' performance in college football playoffs against Clemson, he's probably not going that deep down. The latest mocks for him before the game against Clemson had him dropping all the way down to 10. But that's not the case anymore. He's probably going down to like 6 at worst.
Yeah, because I don't see a scenario like the only way that Justin Jefferson is going to be there for us is if the Jets pass on. I'm sorry, Justin Fields. Jesus, is going to be there for us if the Jets pass him at number 2. And
even then, though, you might not get him because Atlanta could be looking at a quarterback. Philly could be looking at a quarterback.
Jalen Hurts. I think Atlanta. I could see Atlanta looking at a quarterback.
The Jags. Definitely going quarterback in Trevor Lawrence. The Jets possibly looking quarterback considering I don't think Sam Darnold is their long-term option. The Dolphins probably not. The Falcons I think are. The Bengals are not. The Eagles, I'm still not sure that the jury's out on Jalen Hurts just yet. I think they may, if Justin Fields falls to them at 6, they may be looking to go that route. But beyond that, I mean, you're stuck with maybe Zach Wilson, maybe at best. So at that point, if none of the 3 quarterbacks are there, and that's without any trades coming in there. That's if the Bengals don't trade back or the Falcons don't trade back or the Dolphins or anybody in that boat. If none of the quarterbacks are available for the Lions at 7, honestly, of those 3, because those are the 3 I like, honestly, I would go draft maybe a receiver or an edge rusher. Maybe you go and get Devontae Smith. If you bring back Kenny Galladay,
oh my God! If you pair Devontae Smith and Kenny Galladay, you have DeAndre Swift coming out of the backfield
with T.J. Hawkinson
at hot tight end.
Plus, you have a real solid left side of your line in Ragnow and Taylor Decker, and then you also have Jonah Jackson over there at left guard. If Vaitai can pick it up next year, and then your interior right lineman, maybe you shore something up there. I mean, you honestly have a pretty solid line. You have an offense ready built at that point. You just missed the quarterback. And then next year's drafts, you go defense all the way pretty much outside of, if you're bad enough this next season in the top 5, you get your quarterback then, boom, offense ready to go. You're rebuilding your defense. It's taken a couple years. You could honestly be another year or 2 away from competing for a title at that point.
Yeah. And the best part is, assuming you're able to retain all these guys, at least on the offensive side of the ball, they're all young enough where you have a couple years to find your quarterback. Like you're not in win now mode on the offense. Yeah, you're not in win now mode on that offense.
I do think that it is paramount that they end up getting their quarterback next year. However, honestly, I've said it once before and I'll say it again. I straight up think that the Lions, if they do trade Matthew Stafford, should go give Sam Darnold a call and say, hey, come have a season-long tryout. Let's see what you do. If you suck, guess what? We're still probably in the top 5, top 10 to get our quarterback next year. It's a 1-year rental. I don't know if that'd be a trade situation. It might be, but it's a 1-year rental. And if it doesn't work, he's gone. And you still are in a high drafting position with an offense ready to go. And if he succeeds, well, maybe you found your quarterback of the future. He's still young. So it can't hurt to get a guy like Sam Darnold an opportunity to have a shot at the job. It can't.
I mean, and like I remember you brought this up before too, and the more I think about it, like, because I remember when you first brought it up, I was really lukewarm on it, but the more I think about it, like, it's not the first time we've seen Adam Gase squander a quarterback. Like, it's very possible that, like, when you look at Ryan Tannehill, like, it's very possible that Sam Darnold could just come out of that system and actually be a solid quarterback in the NFL, and he was just made worse by the system that Adam Gase implemented. It's very possible.
And it's not even just that. He really hasn't had the weapons or the line or the running game to be successful there in New York. Like, the Jets have been a bad football team with or without Sam Darnold.
Now,
So,
here's a question for you.
I think if you put him on an offense that's ready to go like the Lions and he succeeds, well, guess what? Then it was just Adam Gase and the Jets. Because that's what the Lions have, especially if they add a piece like Jamar Chase or Devontae Smith to this offense and retain Kenny Galladay. You have a lethal offense there. And if and Sam Darnold's successful, then you're fine. You're done. And he's probably going to be cheap. And then you can focus defense.
Here's a question for you. With Carson Wentz demanding a trade, how open are you to trading for him?
I'm not on board with it. I'm just not. I've seen all I need to see from Carson Wentz. I don't think he's a great decision maker. I think he turns the ball over way too much, and he can't stay healthy. So, in other words, we have probably a less talented Matthew Stafford on our hands at that point who fumbles more. Because Matthew Stafford isn't always the best decision maker. He gets hurt a lot. Yes, Matthew Stafford's tough as nails and plays through injury more so than Carson Wentz, but I don't see what Carson Wentz could bring to this football team and that would lead to success. I would much rather take a shot on a guy like Sam Darnold or even Dwayne Haskins, have him duke it out and camp and go wide receiver or something in the first round of this draft and maybe focus line and defense the rest of the way. And that's what you got and build that way. And if it doesn't, and the thing is there really is no negative in my mind to giving a guy like Darnold a shot because, again, if you suck or if he sucks and the team isn't good with him, then you get rid of him and you still have a high pick to go get your quarterback. Because this may not be the draft that you're able to get your quarterback. You know, would you rather settle for a guy like Trey Lance or Kyle Trask or Mac Jones? Probably not. I'd rather go and get a big guy. And there are a lot of names in next year's draft that could be up there.
Yeah, but to clarify, if you're sitting there at 7 and one of Justin Fields or Zach Wilson's there, you're pulling the trigger on either one of them?
I probably am, yeah. I think both could be special talents. I do worry about the Ohio State aspect with Justin Fields, but again, he's probably a better quarterback than anything we've seen come out of Ohio State, at least in my lifetime. So he may be the special talent that breaks the Ohio State quarterback curse.
I'll tell you, the bowl game kind of sold me on him a little more. I'm not like fully on board with Justin Fields, but like I'm starting to warm up to the idea. We'll put it that way.
I would pump the brakes on overreacting to his performance against Clemson. This is not the vintage Clemson defense that we saw that had guys like Christian Wilkins and names like that out there. This is not the same Clemson defense. This Clemson defense was very vulnerable this year.
Yeah, clearly.
So a good offense is able to beat them down. So
it wasn't so much the numbers as the actual kinds of plays that I was seeing him make that I was impressed by.
I also think that Ohio State was a little bit fired up by that arrogant comment from Dabo Swinney that they were the 11th best team and didn't deserve to be in the playoffs. I think there was a little bit of extra motivation there. I thought it was stupid. I don't like Dabo Swinney. I think he's arrogant. I think he's an idiot. And I think he signed his team's own death warrant right there when he made that comment. Because you fire up a team like an Ohio State or a Michigan State or a Michigan, even those blue blood, those chip on their shoulder type or programs that really like to get after it, you're asking for it at that point.
I just want to point out that if we had just lost that Atlanta game, that hard-fought Atlanta game, we'd be number 4 right now.
Uh-huh. Oh, well, we talked about it. There were multiple games the Lions won that we just went, why? Like the Bears game. Why?
Yep.
Why? Like if you had lost that game or the Atlanta game and the Atlanta game, you'd be in the top 5.
The Redskins game where he got bailed out by Matt Prater. Why?
Right. Another one.
Sorry, Washington football team. I keep doing that.
It's expected. Just there's games that, and honestly today when they tried to win this game and I just went, why? And then the refs bailed this out. The refs bailed us out with that roughing the passer call on Tyron Walker, which my God, or Tracy Walker. Sorry, that was a terrible call.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, if the Lions won today, they would have played themselves out of the top 10.
Yeah, absolutely. It would have been a terrible thing for the Lions to have won today's game.
And so not only did you play yourself out of all the top quarterbacks, you also played yourself out of the top receiver as well.
Absolutely.
But anyway, let's talk about Lions continuing GM search.
Absolutely, let's do it. So, report came out today. So, actually, a couple news reports for the Lions came out today. A couple of them. One was about a head coach. One was about a GM.
Sorry, like 7 videos have started playing on my computer at once for some reason, and I have no idea what just happened. What were you saying?
I said a couple of news reports came out about the Lions today in their off-season searches for a coach and a GM. One for a coach, one for a GM. And the GM news that came out was the Lions are actively trying to poach John Schneider from the Seattle Seahawks. Yes. And if you don't know who that is the Seattle Seahawks current general manager. And the Lions are actually trying to poach him away in what could be a blockbuster scenario and a blockbuster deal. So, Andrew, what are your thoughts on that? This is a little bit more aggressive than we've come to expect from the Lions in terms of their search. How do you feel about the Lions going after John Schneider?
Dude, I love it. If we were to get John Schneider, I'd be ecstatic. I mean, this is a guy that he has a winning pedigree. I don't think he's had a below 500 season or even a 500 season since like 2012. I want to say he knows how to build a winner and continue retooling a winner. Like he hasn't had the best drafts in terms of like the first round, but he still knows how to spot talent deep in rounds, and he still knows how to rebuild on the fly through free agency. That the Seahawks haven't dipped, and you look at their roster today versus the roster in like 2013. It's a complete different roster, a completely different build, a completely different team in general. Like the only constant is their quarterback, but like a completely different style of team. Yet they still find ways to be successful on the field.
Yes and no. The team that you see on the football field is still run very similarly to the way that they ran when Marshawn Lynch was in the backfield.
Well, Russell Wilson. But you look at the Seahawks of 2013, they were like a defense first team. You look at the Seahawks of now, this is like a high octane offense, very little defense team. Like that's what I'm talking about.
Not since Jamal Adams has come back. It's a different story with Jamal Adams in there. They're a defense first team and pound the rock when Jamal Adams there. They call it their championship style of play.
There you go.
They still are a pretty defense first team when Jamal Adams is on the football field, and they've shown it the last 4 weeks. So, but either way, and one of the reasons I'm a little bit, I won't say is hesitant as much as I am a little bit iffy. I don't know, but I'm not entirely sold on the idea of John Schneider because one, I don't know what it would cost. Two, he's known for mortgaging the future in a big way. Like I'm talking, he's traded out of almost every first round that I can imagine, and the picks that he has taken the first round have pretty much been busts. He's obviously known for grabbing guys in middle to late rounds like Russell Wilson, Richard Sherman, Cam Chancellor, Tyler Lockett, KJ Wright. Some names there that have been successful.
He's traded out in 4 of the last 8 first rounds,
right? And
add the number to that.
In the future, and you got to also remember he traded to get Jimmy Graham in. He traded a first round pick in 2015, along with their center Max Unger, to bring in Jamal Adams. In a 4th round pick from the Jets, he traded 1st and 3rd round picks in this upcoming draft and a 1st round pick in next year's draft. So he traded their future away there to bring in Jamal Adams as well. So for a team that's looking to rebuild, I don't know if John Schneider's the guy to do that. He's more of a guy who can make the right moves to take a team from that's kind of your 7-9, 8-8, 9-7 team and take them over the top. That's what I look at when it comes to John Schneider. Now, he has had success in middle to late rounds grabbing draft picks, so there is that, which is obviously extremely important to a rebuild. But I don't know. I'm not sure if he would be too much loved here in Detroit with the fan base if he's going to continue to trade out of first rounds and give up future picks to bring in guys who may or may not be successf's here. Because Jimmy Graham wasn't very successful in Seattle.
No. What really encourages me in terms of his drafting is that mid round ability. I mean, you talk about grabbing guys like Deacon Metcalf in the second. It's a given that just fell to him. Let's be honest here. That's a receiver that should have gone in the first round, and people had him in the first round, and he just happened to fall. But you do have other guys like Shaq Griffin in round 3 in 2017.
I mean,
you do have guys like Tyler Lockett in round 3 in 2015.
Yeah, I mentioned Lockett, Wilson, Sherman, Chancellor, KJ Wright. I mentioned those names out there.
Yeah.
You're not.
And I believe
wrong.
his first draft with the Seahawks. Where did his first draft when he took Russell Wilson in round 3?
I think so. You're not wrong. Like, don't get me wrong. However, you can also make the argument that couldn't you say he may have lucked into some of these picks a little bit? I still think that grabbing a guy in a middle to late round and having him be super successful could also be a little bit of luck. A guy like Russell Wilson was not as highly touted coming into the league. Like, he was too short. He had too small of hands. He was a poor decision maker. You know, he had a lot of issues there. He wasn't ever going to be a successful NFL QB, and then it turns out he blossomed and just hit the stride. And so you could make the argument that maybe coaching helped out in with Russell Wilson, Richard Sherman, Cam Chancellor, Tyler Lockett, guys like that.
So do you think he's being basically it's Pete Carroll basically
I think the entire Seahawks
saving his ass basically.
No, not necessarily. I think the entire because obviously the guy knows how to see talent and put talent on the roster. There's no question about it. You can't deny that. But I also think it's a bit of a joint situation with an excellent coaching staff in Seattle that knows how to develop talent arguably better than almost any team in the league outside of maybe Pittsburgh and be successful that way. You know, you give them talent and, you know, you give them enough talent that you like and those guys make something happen out of it. And I think it's a little bit of both. I think he's bolstered by an excellent coaching staff and excellent talent development pieces in that organization. But I also think he has an eye for talent. He's able to spot the talent in those middle to late rounds. I just don't necessarily love his first round picks. Like, his first round picks in recent years have not been great. So and also the whole Jadeveon Clowney situation kind of soured me on him a little bit. In recent years, he's kind of soured me a little bit with some of the decisions he's made and with that Seattle front office, and that's one of the big reasons why I'm not entirely sure about it. Because as much as the Jamal Adams trade looks really good right now, once this team has to rebuild, it ain't going to look so good.
That's true. That is true. Yeah, you're right. Because the Jamal Adams trade has done wonders from on the field midway through the season, but. What did they give up for him? I mean, I just said they gave up they gave up 2 first-round picks between this year and next year, and then they gave up a 3rd-round pick this year also. They got Jamal Adams and a 4th-round pick from the Jets. They also gave up safety Bradley McDougald, 1st and 3rd-round picks in this upcoming draft, and a 1st-round pick in next year's draft. So 2 straight first-round picks. They don't have first-round pick for this year or next. So basically, to sum up your argument here, then. What you would say is Schneider, if any team were to poach Schneider, the best fit would be a team that's close.
Yes.
Or a team that may be already winning but looking for a GM switch.
Yes.
Like, Schneider is not the GM to lead a rebuilding team because of the fact that he doesn't value draft capital is basically what your argument is.
Right. He doesn't, and to rebuild a team, you have to value draft capital. Like, your first round picks have to be ultra successful as every bit as much as your 2nd, 3rd, 4th round picks. Like, and then you have to find the guys in the 5th and 6th round, which he's good at, but some of his recent first round picks haven't been as successful, and that's where I'm a little bit worried about.
That's fair. I was just sold on how successful the Seahawks have been over the decade. But like, the more I think about it, this could have been very much just the Pete Carroll, Russell Wilson show and them carrying Schneider to. Schneider has done a good job of bringing pieces in terms of on the trade market or in free agency, but at the same time, if you look at what he had to give up doing those pieces in, would that work for a team like the Detroit Lions who kind of need that draft capital right now?
Look at it this way, and this is how much Russell Wilson has bailed out that team. They have had statistically one of the worst offensive lines every single season for how long now? Russell Wilson is consistently one of the most sacked quarterbacks in the league every single year, and he has not fixed that issue. That's a glaring issue that you need to have to win titles. You need to have fixed to win titles, and he has not been able to do it. That right there is what worries me. He is not able to fix an issue that is a glaring one on that for that organization, and he's not able to do it in the draft. He's not able to do it really anywhere. It's very concerning for me that he hasn't been able to turn that around, and that's how much Russell Wilson has bolstered that team entirely. Is even if he is playing with one of the league's worst offensive lines year over year, he still puts up insane numbers.
I wonder what makes the Lions think like they can just poach him out of, like, I wonder why him. That's what I'm trying to figure out. I wonder like if there's some kind of internal strife that hasn't hit the media that Schneider and the Seahawks organization may be at odds or something. Like, I wonder what kind of inkling the Lions have if they think that they could poach him out of Seattle.
I don't know. Maybe it's just a mutual thing where maybe he's starting to get pushed out of Seattle, or he wants out of Seattle and wants to change scenery, and he maybe potentially the Lions maybe potentially a situation where he could go. The Lions are obviously looking to try to go after a proven winner at the GM spot and a name that could put them in a situation to be successful, and he'd be one of the names that would pop up. But to give you an idea of some of the recent draft picks he's made in the first couple rounds of the recent drafts this year, Jordan Brooks, Darrell Taylor in the first and second rounds, not really too much success there as far as I know. Last year, L.J. Collier, Marquise Blair, DK Metcalf. DK was obviously good. L.J. Collier and Marquise Blair, I don't really, again, they're not names that jump off the page. 2018, Rashad Penny in the first round. He's been a bust. Rasheem Green, I think he's actually been halfway decent in the third round in 2018. 2017, Malik McDowell in the second round, Ethan Pochich in the second round, and Shaquille Griffin in the third. So, again, he's I would argue his picks in the middle rounds are far more successful than his top-end picks, which you need everything to be successful to fully rebuild the team properly.
Here's a thing that I noticed real quick while I was trying to double check myself on the whole Schneider-Carroll dynamic. I found out something that I didn't know. And I wonder if you knew this or not. I did not know that he does not have primary authority over personnel decisions. It's actually Carroll.
Pete Carroll. I have heard that a few times, and there's been a constant battle between the two because of it.
Which is what actually allows the Lions to try to poach him under the NFL's anti-tampering policy. If they were offering him full control, that actually allows them to try to poach.
Yes, because it technically gives him more power. It would be a promotion for him, technically speaking, is what it would be. So there's another reason. That
adds like a little bit of unknown that kind of scares me, to be honest with you.
Exactly, like that right there also. And I actually had heard that once or twice that there was a constant power struggle between Pete Carroll and John Schneider over in Seattle. It does kind of, again, it adds to my worry because, is it Pete Carroll finding guys like Russell Wilson, or is it John Schneider finding guys like Russell Wilson? You know what I mean? Like there's more reason to doubt than there was before. But moving on, switching gears here over to the other news that was talked about today. The Lions recently interviewed a head coaching candidate. We've heard his name before. In fact, he's a perennial loser in the playoffs. His name is Marvin Lewis.
Don't do it.
Longtime Bengals head coach. I believe he went to 7 straight AFC playoffs and lost all 7 matchups, or however many he went to. He lost them all. How would you feel about the Lions bringing in Marvin Lewis to be the head coach?
It's going to be Jim Caldwell over again. It's going to be Jim Caldwell over again. It's going to be that whole, we're going to get to 9-7, but 9-7 isn't good enough. Maybe get to 10-6 for Marvin Lewis. Maybe. Like he had the same issue that Jim Caldwell has in terms of he can build a team, he can get you there, but he can't get you past there. He can get you the playoffs, but he's not going to get you further than that. I remember when Marvin Lewis was with Cincinnati,
he had some pretty good teams there.
He did, but like I was ready for him to be fired like a whole 3 years before he was actually fired. Like I remember by 2018, I was like, he's still the coach. Like how? So like it was.
I'm not a guy who likes to bring in coaches that have been sitting on the couch since their previous job.
There's that too.
Why wasn't he if he was a good coach in any side of the ball, why wasn't he on someone's sideline? Why wasn't he up in the booth for somebody? Why didn't he have a job? I don't want a retread that's been sitting in sweatpants on Sundays as opposed to sitting in or standing on the sideline coaching a football game. Marvin Lewis obviously is not the right guy for this team. He's not a guy that can lead this team to success. And it's you could see it with Cincinnati. He had some good teams there. I know Andy Dalton's not the greatest quarterback. However, Andy Dalton's playing some damn good football with Cincinnati. He also had a really good wide receiver in AJ Green. He also had a pretty solid defense, with guys like Vontaze Burfict and a bunch of other names out there that were pretty damn good. So he had talent there, and
to his credit, he made the postseason. He made a playoff game 7 times, and he lost 7 times.
He did, but you're right. He will be a guy who will get us to that point, but will never be able to take us over the edge, over the hill, and lead us to success. It'll be playoff after playoff after playoff, and it'll be Jim Caldwell 2.0. I have never really liked Marvin Lewis. I've never thought he was a great head coach. I never thought he would be ultra successful. I thought on Sundays he was a poor game manager, and again, how is that any different than what we had with Jim Caldwell? Guy was a great Monday through Saturday head coach. Terrible coach on Sundays. And I don't ever want to see that come here ever again, because while we had, obviously it was better with Jim Caldwell than it was with Matt Patricia, but both don't have, it can't be because this was bad, we need him back. No, both can be bad. And I don't want to see them go the same route with Marvin Lewis. It just, if he was actually any good, he would have been coaching within the last couple of years.
To his defense, he has been coaching. He was the special advisor at Arizona State last season, and now he's co-defensive coordinator this season in Arizona State.
Whoa!
I didn't know you could have co-defensive coordinators.
I can see co-offensive coordinators, like a passing game coordinator and a running game coordinator. Like I can see that. But I don't know what you do on the defense that would be co-coordinators.
Sound the nickel package, not the dime package. What are you doing? No, dime, no. Now no one knows what to do.
I still think we should go with what I had in mind. I had a dream. All right, I had a dream. I was the GM of the Lions. They hired me. And this is a weird dream. Let me tell you, this is a weird dream.
Oh, Lord.
But I was GM of the Lions, and I went full on Remember the Titans and hired both Eric Bieniemy and Robert Saleh to co-coach my team. To co-coach the Detroit Lions. Eric Bieniemy got the offense. Robert Saleh got the defense.
Things that'll never happen for 2000.
Exactly. But it was awesome. Oh, man. Urban Meyer's name is continuously popping around.
Although it looks like he's going to go to Jacksonville.
There are reports that he will end up in Jacksonville, so we can breathe easier on that one. Jim Harbaugh is looking probably
does it make it any more likely that does it make it any more likely that Jacksonville takes Justin Fields in the number 1 overall pick?
No. No, I think Urban Meyer saw the opportunity to work with Trevor Lawrence and went, oh, man. Oh, man. Reports are saying that Ryan Day is going to get some head coaching looks also in the NFL this offseason, so he could be poached from OSU also. I don't know if the Lions are in on that. I just saw that news today. I thought it was interesting.
But yeah, to sum it all up, the head coach and GM search is as wide open as ever. We are no closer to figuring out who we're going to get here. I wonder how long it's going to take. I do wonder how long they're going to drag this search out.
I really don't know.
I know this season literally just ended today. I know
there sure are a lot of names the Lions are looking for. I mean, Kevin Colbert from the Steelers, Ed Dodds from the Colts, Terry Fontenot from the Saints. Scott Fitterer from the Seahawks, Rams college scouting director Brad Holmes, Vikings assistant GM George Patton, Cowboys VP of player personnel Will McClay, and Patriots front office consultant Elliot Wolf have all been connected to the Lions GM vacancy. So it quite literally is as wide open as it gets. That's not even to mention some of the names they've already interviewed. So There's obviously a lot of names that the Lions are looking at, and they're leaving no rock unturned. And you know what? I like it. I hope the Lions are looking at every possible candidate that they can, regardless if they're experienced GMs or not. Shall we switch over to Pistons?
Let's switch over to Pistons. The Pistons had 4 games in the last week against some pretty good teams. The Atlanta Hawks. I can't call the Golden State Warriors a good team right now, but then two against the Boston Celtics.
We thought they'd be a good team.
Yeah, and then lost Clay, and all of a sudden they're the worst team in the league. Like, what? I didn't know that this starting lineup was this.
They're not the worst team in the league.
No, they're
anymore.
not.
They're 2-3 now.
Yeah, but I didn't know that the starting lineup was this volatile. Like, you lose one guy. Last year it was Steph. This year it's Clay. Like, you lose one guy in that starting lineup, and your whole team's done.
Again, that team's a team that's never really had too much depth since their championship run because they put all their money in the starting lineup. And 2, you take a guy like Clay, who is clearly their best two-way player off the floor. Mm-hmm. You're taking out the lifeblood of a team at that point because he is a leader both on offense and defense, especially on defense. So that losing him is a big one because they really don't have great defensive abilities at the guard position any longer when Clay's gone. So that's a big loss.
But this went about. Well, I shouldn't say that. But I wasn't up. Even though the Pistons went 1-3 in the stretch of games, I wasn't upset about it at all.
I was encouraged
because the way they played. I mean, Killian Hayes had one good game, but he's actually kind of. I feel like he's declined this week.
He did.
But other than that, the way they played as a team, as a whole, I've been very encouraged by. They've been competitive, and it's what I want. I want competitive losses, especially when we're talking competitive losses with good teams like the Celtics, like we just saw today. That's what I want to see. I want to see competitive losses, and guys have been playing. I mean, Jeremy Grant. He's starting to make that contract look worth it.
We said that he was gonna be the guy by default, and he is.
I will say Blake Griffin looked old today. I think he's already getting the wear and tear of the season. 6 games in.
Let me tell you, that Svi Mikhailuk kid can seriously shoot the ball.
Oh yeah, we knew that last year.
We knew that last year.
But what I've really liked this week has been the play of Sadiq Bey and Isaiah Stewart. Yes. I've been really encouraged by both these guys. Like, I was getting scared because our first few games, the scoring load had been mostly on guys like DeLon Wright. We saw Jeremy Grant and Blake
Josh
Griffin.
Jackson's
I remember the first couple of
games.
So, but like now, like these last couple of games when Josh Jackson has played. Oh, he's played well. Not as good as he started, but he's played well. DeLon Wright hasn't scored as much as he was in the first couple games this season. Blake Griffin, Derrick Rose have kind of started looking slow again. It's been encouraging to be able to actually see these young guys like Isaiah Stewart and Sadiq Bey come in and step up. And dude, Sadiq is leading the league in offensive rebounds, and he plays like 15 minutes a game. The guy's an
he
animal
played
in the
30
paint.
against the Hawks. I mean, he played a lot of minutes there, and against is he really leading in offensive rebounds?
Yep. Now, that may have changed after tonight. I haven't checked the update stats as of tonight.
Because in these 4 games, I see a total of 1 offensive board in the 4 games combined.
Probably inaccurate because he was leading the league in offensive rebounds coming into tonight.
This is an ESPN stat. This is ESPN box scores.
But
I don't know what you're talking about.
It's
Where'd you get this stat from?
I can pull it up for you. This is a very widely circulated stat, and I looked it up myself as well. But let's keep talking while I look that up. What I find really interesting though is when Dwayne Casey after tonight's game was asked about Sadiq Bey, or before tonight's game, sorry, and he called him a young Dennis Rodman type. He said, "I'm not going to call him Dennis Rodman, but that type of mentality of going and getting the ball. He's active, he doesn't stop just because you box him out. He continues to move his feet in a legal way. A lot of times young players will grab and hold. He does it with his feet and his intensity. It's great to see that's who he is." And I mean, isn't that the type of player that we've been wanting in Detroit for a while? Just I'm not saying he's Dennis Rodman. I'm saying that type of guy, that guy that's going to be insanely aggressive down low while not costing you with boneheaded fouls at the same time. Like,
you talking about Sadiq Bey?
No, we're talking about
Isaiah Stewart. Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Are you thinking he's the one that's leading in offensive rebounds?
Yeah.
You said Sadiq Bey.
Did I say Sadiq Bey?
Yes.
Oh, I meant I was talking about Isaiah Stewart.
Okay, that I can see. Granted, Mason Plumlee has had 17 offensive boards in the last 4 games, so he's been on fire on the offensive glass. But either way, I mean, I like the way I've liked what I've seen out of Isaiah Stewart, and I know I've said that maybe he's just not ready for the league yet. That's why he wasn't playing. But ever since he's been inserted into the offense and inserted into the lineup, he's played well. Is better than I expected him to. He's playing bigger than he actually is, because I believe he's only 6'9", isn't he?
Yeah, but he plays bigger for sure. He uses that wingspan. He really uses that wingspan to his advantage.
And he's got, enough athleticism to get those offensive boards and put it back up and make some plays. He's able to finish. I love the way that Isaiah Stewart's played, and granted, not in a ton of minutes, but he's played very effectively. I've been very encouraged by the way he's played as of late.
And Saddiq Bey as well. He's proven to be probably the most NBA ready, not only of our draft class, but one of the most NBA ready players in this draft class. Not saying he's the best player in this draft class, just one of the most NBA ready players in this draft class. Because the decisions he makes, both on the offensive and the defensive side of the ball, and the poise he has, that's something you don't see outside of veterans. And seeing it outside of a rookie has been kind of remarkable, if you ask me. And the fact that he's really shouldered his share of the scoring load. I've really been impressed with Saddiq Bey as well, and we'll get to Killian Hayes in a second. But what are your thoughts on how Saddiq has played these last few games?
I mean, he's been pretty damn good too. I like seeing him in extended run. I'd like to see the shot fall a little bit more, but I'm liking the fact that he's aggressive both on the glass and able to, make plays happen. He's shooting well, coming in solid minutes. I just want to see, him continue to build on his confidence. I'd like to see the shot fall a little bit more, and that comes with confidence. But he's aggressive on both sides of the ball, and I honestly think Saddiq Bey could end up, as of right now, he looks like the best of of the draft picks. If you ask me, I love the way he's played, and he's all over the place on the floor. He's very aggressive on the glass, like I said, and he's able to score when you need him to, and I've been very intrigued with the way that Saddiq Bey's played. He's been the highlight of things for me right now.
Now, one guy that hasn't been quite as much of a highlight has been Killian Hayes. He had 2 straight games where he couldn't convert a single bucket. Now, defensively, again, it's the same story as last week. I've been very impressive defensively, and one of the highlights was how he played against Trae Young. He had quite a few possessions where he really gave Trae Young fits. A few of them where one in particular I remember seeing where he closed out on Trae Young in the baseline and forced a turnover, and then kind of assist the other end for a bucket. It's really nice to see him be able to be locked up with guys like that defensively, but offensively, it definitely, in terms of his shot looks good, but it's not going in again. It's the same story.
His misses, his misses aren't bad though. He doesn't look bad when he misses.
Exactly, because the form is good. The form is there. I honestly think it's just getting adjusted to speed. One thing they point out on today's telecast was that a lot of his misses have been short, and a lot of that. And I don't know how they drew this conclusion, but the conclusion they drew with a lot of times when you see a player miss short, it's because they are not slowing down and they're overthinking something, and they take a shot without really being set for the shot, and they miss it short. I don't know how they drew that conclusion. I'm not quite sure I even agree with that conclusion. But what I do agree with is, he needs to slow down. He needs to take a breath and really let the speed of the game come to him, because that's really the big knock right now that I have on Killian Hayes. It's just he still shows that he needs to get adjusted to playing the NBA speed. Now, my question to you is, Nick, do you want to see him keep starting?
I do, honestly. This is a year of learning, and the way he's going to learn is by putting him in the lineup and having him play. If there needs to be a game where, okay, we need to sit you for a bit and we need to coach you, then yes, you do that. If you take him out of the starting lineup for a game or two to try and motivate him a little bit, then maybe that's what you do. But I don't think he's going to learn anything by sitting on the bench and watching Derrick Rose play, because they're 2 different players. They don't play the same game. So I don't think he's going to learn anything there. So I'd like to see him continue to get opportunity, continue to be called upon to be the guy. Is he going to make mistakes? Yes, but we expected that. So, I don't see a reason to not start him right now, outside of maybe a game here or there to give him some coaching moments and motivate him. But other than that, as long as he continues to develop, then yeah, keep going after it. My one question for you is, though, are you at all discouraged or worried about him on the defensive side of the ball, considering guys like Trae Young put up 29 points, Steph Curry 31, Marcus Smart in the 2 games went for 13 and 9 and 17 and 10. Does that at all worry you that once he starts playing against some of the premier point guards in the league, that those guys are able to kind of score at will? And even for a guy like Marcus Smart, who's not the greatest scorer, putting up 17 in today's game with Killian Hayes on him, does that worry you at all?
No, because like I said earlier, he actually going back to the Hawks game against Trae Young, he had a lot of actually really good stops against Trae Young, and a lot of Trae Young's production actually came when Killian Hayes was on the bench. And Steph Curry cooked him. That's
Steph Curry cooks a lot of people.
Now, I did watch the Celtics games. I guess I wasn't paying close attention to see if he was primarily guarding Smart or not. I did miss that.
Well, if he was guarding Jaylen Brown cooked the Pistons both games for over 30 points. So that would not be a good thing. 25 in the first game and 31 in game 2. But Jaylen Brown also shot very well in both games. Like, he missed a total of 11 shots out of 36.
Yeah, and Jason Tatum killed us too.
Yes.
Especially tonight. But no, in general, yeah, I've actually been encouraged by his defense because I've seen a lot of really good plays out of him, and he's going to make mistakes being a rookie. And a lot of the defensive mistakes I've seen out of Killian Hayes is more so just switching on screens. Like, it's either he beats the screen in terms of he avoids it entirely, or if he gets hit on the pick, it's like he, instead of switching, he tries to go back to his guy and then leaves the roll man open. That's like the biggest mistake I've seen him make. But I think part of that too is just the kind of zone they're playing. Because it's happened so consistently, I'm starting to wonder if that's just the way it's drawn up. But
so the one thing I will say,
other than that mistake, I've actually been pretty encouraged with his defense, at least passing the eye test.
One thing I will say that does worry me a little bit about his defense is even looking at some of the bench point guard numbers. And now, mind you, this may not be against Killian Hayes, but if it is, it could be. I mean, even the bench point guards are putting up some good numbers. Rajon Rondo for the Hawks went for 12 and 8 himself, and that's in 15 minutes of play. So again, I don't know how much of that came from with Killian Hayes on the floor or not. But guys like Jeff Teague for the Celtics, it put up 12 and 3 with 2 steals in 20 minutes of play. And then again, well, today he didn't play as much, he didn't do as well, but either way, like, some of those numbers are a little bit worrying to see. I think this is, but I think the more experienced point guards are looking at a rookie and saying, I know how to beat this guy. So am I seeing, that's not what worries me as much. That's why I'm not going to overreact and say, oh, his defense is a bust. Like, anybody can just score at will on him, because what I am seeing on the floor is a guy who knows how to play defense, just doesn't have the experience and the knowledge of what an experienced NBA vet like a Jeff Teague, Marcus Smart, Rajon Rondo, Steph Curry, Trae, guys like that know how to beat a rook. It's a rook being schooled by a very experienced point guard in the league, and that's why I'm not really discouraged by it. I just want to bring it up because it was something that I had heard that people say, oh, he's really not as good of a defender as we thought, but I still think he can be a good defender in this league, and I think he will be. Again, I'm seeing the physical tools out there and the presence of mind and knowing what he's doing out there. It's just a situation where it's experience is winning the battle. Yeah, but he's making it tough for him.
Yeah, and I would encourage fans to don't panic at the numbers that a guy like Steph Curry puts up, because there were a lot. I can't even count on one hand how many plays that Steph Curry would take a shot with Killian having a hand right in his face, and Steph Curry would still drain it. Like,
that's what Steph Curry does.
Those are guys that, you can play as good defense as you want. They're still making the shot.
Right.
But no.
Going back to your stat about Isaiah Stewart, though, I don't see his name on this list at all. The leading offensive rebounds I'm seeing is Jared Allen with 24. Mason Plumlee's name could be up there. He's got 18. I don't see how Isaiah Stewart's up. He doesn't have 18, though, because he's not even played outside of these last 4 games. And he has 12 in the last 4, which is a good number. Mason Plumlee is 17 in the last 4 games, though. So maybe you're thinking of Mason Plumlee?
Oh, no. I was definitely thinking of Isaiah Stewart. I have to look deeper in the numbers. I can probably pull up the stat.
Yeah, I don't know where that
stat's
stat's coming from. Maybe it's offensive rebounds per minutes played or offensive rebounds in 4 games or something. I don't know.
Again, that was after what would it be? It would have been Friday's game. So it is possible that obviously by Saturday those games change in. Then maybe today's game isn't factored into numbers yet since it just ended a couple hours ago. So that's also a possibility. But the numbers can always change. But I believe as of the first Boston game, he had been leading the league in offensive boards.
I just don't see how that's possible when Mason Plumlee in the 3 prior games had more offensive rebounds than he did. Like, just going by the Pistons and Hawks, Plumlee's played more, had 5, and so Plumlee had 10. Isaiah Stewart had 9 in those 2 games.
But we're focusing on the wrong thing. The point is that Isaiah Stewart has been a dog on the boards, and that's kind of what we really like to see. It's kind of part of what we were hoping out of him. I do want to see a little more offensive game out of him. He's shown that he's nice in the post, but the rumors out of the draft were that he actually does have a bit of a jumper that he wasn't really allowed to showcase in college, and I'm still hoping to see a little more of that out of him. But
I'd love to see that out of him. If he can find a way to step away from the basket and hit some shots for us, that's something I've been asking for out of a center in this town and for a decade. You know, we didn't have that at all with Andre Drummond. So to see that possibility with Isaiah Stewart, I would be so ecstatic. You have no idea.
Oh, yeah. Now, one last question for you. Sekou Doumbouya. He has played sparingly these first few games. Are you at all worried? Because, like, a lot of us expected Sekou to take a major step forward, and he had a flash in the preseason where he had a good preseason game, and then he had an aggressive preseason game outside of that. So he had one good game and one game where he played aggressive, which you like to see. But in general, he's gone back to the more troubling things that we've seen from him last season. He's gone back to that in the regular season now. Are you starting to get worried about his development, or do you think that it's just he's still young. He just turned 20 like a few days ago. Is it just he's still young and we're going to need to give him more time? I
mean, we're talking about a guy who I believe is 20 years old?
Yeah, he just turned 20 a couple days ago.
Still extremely young. I am a little bit concerned that this organization and Dwayne Casey in particular are losing faith in him. Like, this may be a do or die year for a guy like Sekou Doumbouya, and whether or not he's going to be
evidenced by how little he's played,
right? and for his potential to be a part of this rebuild, and I think this is a pivotal year for him because this is year 2, and we're seeing guys like Sadiq Bey, Isaiah Stewart, and Killian Hayes come into this lineup and play several minutes on a nightly basis. So, and he's not able to get into this fold, which again, we said it from the beginning. This is the year that Sekou Doumbouya needs to step up and play in that role and take his spot on this roster for the future. And he's played mostly at the 4 position this year, and he really hasn't focused too much of the 3. So I wonder if that's been something that's kind of taken him away from what he wants to do, or maybe is a reason why he's not getting as many minutes with the presence of guys like Blake Griffin and other names out there. So that may be a factor there. But again, I would like to see them look at Sekou Doumbouya and give him a little bit more of an extended run than we've seen. But if he's not deserving it, then maybe there is something to worry about there.
Yeah.
But what are your thoughts on it?
No, I think you hit on the head in terms of I'm starting to be afraid that this Pistons coaching staff and front office are already starting to lose faith in Sekou, because I do feel like if they had more faith in him, we'd see more playing time out of him. He gets minutes in the low teens most nights, if that. And like you see rookies playing more than him right now. In terms of Sadiq Bey, he's getting more playing time than him. Isaiah Stewart's getting more playing time than him. So it's part of it is, he much like Killian Hayes, he's coming from overseas. He's super young. He just turned 20. Obviously, he's going to need time to mature in this league. But at the same time, there is part of me that's getting worried, more so on the fact that, like you said, are the Pistons getting worried about him rather than is he going to pan out? Because if the Pistons lose faith in him, then all bets are off. Because for him to develop, the Pistons need to have faith in him. But on the whole,
he is leading rookies in offensive rebound rate.
Oh, there you go.
That's what it is.
But on the whole, well, not many of the rookie bigs have played. I mean, Wiseman's played sparingly. Has Okongwu even played for the Hawks? Has the guy the Suns drafted? I don't think he's even played.
He is leading it pretty handily.
Yeah, I think a lot of the rookie bigs haven't really been playing, so there's that. But on the whole, this Pistons team is grimy. They're gritty, and I like it.
Oh, they are, and they play. They're in all reality. Looking at it, they're not a super talented team. Like they're not.
Yeah,
like they have some guys.
Look at this afternoon's game. It was ugly. Outside of Jeremy Grant, it was an ugly game for everyone involved. Maybe and Fee shot pretty well, but other than that, it was a pretty ugly game for everybody involved, and we still kept it close. Like.
Exactly. And that's the type of games that they need to that's the type of games they need to play. Granted, the Celtics were able to actually score in this game, but the last game against Celtics, they held them to 93 points.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a feat right there. You're talking about one of the best teams in the league that's a team competing for a number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. You not only beat them, but you held them to under 100 points. In today's day and age, that's a hell of a feat for a team that's expected to be one of the 3 worst teams in the league. So to see that type of performance out of the Pistons, that's encouraging. And I know it's only one game, and I know it's, if the Pistons were to play the Celtics in 10 games, the Celtics probably win 8 or 9 of them. But you know what? That one game gives me reason to have some faith and some excitement for the future of this team.
And honestly, like this, the way the season's gone, this is exactly how I want it to go, and keep going. We're the worst team in terms of record, yet we are playing up to everyone we play against. It's always a close game. And it's these guys are giving a full effort every night, being aggressive, and that's what I want to see. And so I want to see that kind of building the hope and getting these young guys out there and really seeing the fight in them, while at the same time building up your draft stock. So I like it.
Absolutely, I'm encouraged, and to see that there's a possibility that all three of the first round picks in this year's draft could end up actually panning out to be a part of the future of this franchise and something we can build around. When's the last time we had
that's widely regarded as a weak draft?
Right. When's the last time we can look at a Pistons draft and say not one, like just one guy from the first round panned out first off, let alone 2 or 3?
Well, if you look at I think it was on Friday night, I believe they said it was the first time that the Pistons have had 2 of their first round picks starting, like in terms of their first round picks starting together on the floor in the same game since I think it was like 1970.
Oh my
something.
God.
Yeah.
Did they not draft Isaiah and Joe D?
Not in the same year?
Oh, in the same year.
Yeah,
so we're talking like there's a limited sample size to begin with because you don't really have many years with first round with multiple first round picks. But I was gonna say, I mean that I'm excited. There's a lot. Yeah. It looks like we have a direction with this team, and it looks like they're building identity. I just hope they stick with the identity and continue to build upon it and add to it. You know, it's a tough way to win in this league, not going after, not just playing superstar ball and building around that. It's a tough way to win in this league. But you know what? This Pistons team has done it. This Pistons organization, I should say, has done it once, and they can do it again. They've done it twice, actually.
I want to close out with a couple more things. One last point on Isaiah Stewart. I wanted to quote Amari Sankofa of the, I believe he's the beat writer for the Free Press. He said that Isaiah Stewart rebounds like he's moshing. He's the bountiest player on the roster, and I think that's a perfect way to describe Isaiah Stewart.
Bounciest player on the roster. I like it.
So here's my official vote to make Isaiah Stewart's nickname the Mosh Pit. That's gonna be.
I like it. Okay, I'm down with that.
And Rod Beard, that news. So this I wanted to close out with, and obviously this is not including the 2 Celtics games, but so we'll say the Pistons have lost the first 4 games by a margin of 10, 8, 9, 10 points. They won their 5th game, lost by a margin of 2 points in their 6th game. And they've had the lead in the 4th quarter of every single one of these games, all 6 of these games.
So they can't close.
So they're not as bad as the record would have you suggest, but you are what your record says you are, which, if that's not what we wanted out of this season, I don't know what is.
That's exactly what we said this Pistons team was going to be. Is it not? That there's going to be a lot of games that they're competing in the end. They'll end up losing by double digits or close to, or keep it close. And they're going to be in a lot more of these games than they're not. And that's exactly what we said they are. And to see it early on in the year, granted, things haven't entirely gone the way we expected, but it's encouraging. And there's a lot of things to look at and say, hey, this is something that, this is something to look at and say, yes, this is good. Josh Jackson playing as well as he has. Is this potentially the fit for him finally to be the star that he was supposed to be coming into the league? Or not even a star, but a really solid player. Sadiq Bey stepping up and playing the role that he's been in. He played 30 minutes the other night. Mm-hmm. That's a lot of minutes for a rook. In his third or fourth game. I mean, that's a lot. There's a lot to be encouraged about, 100%. And if they continue to keep losing games like this, sweet, you'll end up in the top 3. And your team is a hell of a lot better than your record indicates.
I have a gut feeling if you end up in the top 3, NBA is going to find a way to screw you out of that pick. I'm just saying.
Can't they just the
lottery's never gone the Pistons' way.
Not even just the Pistons. Lottery has never gone a Detroit team's way. Look at the Wings this year. We're the worst team, and they end up getting the 4th pick. It wasn't even close in terms of how they were the worst team, and they got the 4th pick. I mean, granted, they got Lucas Raymond, good talent, but still, it can't once. Let's go twice. Let's go twice. Once for the Wings, once for the Pistons. Can't we just once or twice get the lottery to go our way?
It'd be nice.
It sure would. Anything else to add?
That's all I got, man.
All right, that's going to close it out for this week, guys. Do I say good Lions season? Or do I just say typical Lions season?
No, because you weren't bad enough for a top 5 pick, and you weren't good enough to compete for anything.
I mean, they could technically still pull out 6.
This was a mess of a season.
It was a mess of a season. It was a typical Lions season. We'll go with that. But thank you guys again for listening. Follow us on Twitter at RealFanReport. Andrew, thank you for joining me. Thank you to Detroit Sports Podcast as well. Mm-hmm. We will catch you guys next week as we wind down this Lions season. Obviously, we'll continue to talk about the offseason news, but we'll be hitting the Pistons pretty heavily. So we hope you guys enjoyed your new year, enjoyed your week, and enjoyed the holidays. And let's kick it off into 2021 on a good note and keep things rolling through the year. So thank you guys again. This has been the Fan Reporters by fans.
For fans.
Catch you guys next week. Peace out.
Peace.